Senate Democrats and Republicans say they've struck a deal to avoid a looming economic disaster. The agreement will temporarily raise the debt ceiling through early December. Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell made the offer Wednesday, bringing a potential end to a weeks-long standoff between the two parties. CBS News' Debra Alfarone has more from Capitol Hill, where senators are racing to work out the details.
We've reached an agreement.
The Senate is expected to vote on a short-term measure to raise the federal debt limit through December 3rd.
It's our hope that we can get this done as soon as today.
It comes after a day of negotiations, triggered by Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell's statement that his party would temporarily give up its objections, allowing Democrats to raise the ceiling into December.
The pathway our Democratic colleagues have accepted will spare the American people any near-term crisis.
It is simply a temporary delay, and we're going to be back in the same soup in December.
The debt ceiling increase expires the same day as the temporary government funding extension, setting the stage for another possible budget showdown in less than 2 months.
Do you support the short-term debt ceiling deal?
The Democrats are also focused on reaching a deal to pass the bipartisan infrastructure bill and the budget reconciliation package, which covers the president's social agenda.
So far, Senate Democrats have pushed back on the GOP's calls to use the same reconciliation process to pass a more permanent debt ceiling increase along party lines.
It's kind of like Geico. It's so easy, a caveman can do it.
It was never designed for the debt ceiling.
Meanwhile, President Biden continued negotiations on the budget bill Thursday, meeting once again with moderate Senate Democrat Joe Manchin at the White House. Debra Alfarone, CBS News, Capitol Hill.
For more, I'm joined by Jennifer Shutt. Jennifer is a budget and appropriations reporter with Roll Call. Jennifer, good to have you back on the show. So Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell announced this offer Wednesday afternoon. What details did the two sides work out in order to actually get this measure to the Senate floor?
So Democrats were pushing for a much longer suspension of the debt limit, one that would have lasted through December 16th of next year. And Republicans really did not want to advance that legislation in the Senate. So Mitch McConnell put forward a proposal that would raise the United States government's current borrowing authority by about $480 billion. And the best guess right now, based on federal revenues and federal spending, is that that would last through about early December, probably December 3rd, lining it up with that government funding cliff.
Remind us, where does the current debt limit stand? And again, what would happen if it wasn't raised?
So in past years, congressional leaders and the administration have done something that's referred to as suspending the debt limit. And so they really just pick a future date and time. The most recent one suspended the debt limit through the end of July. And since then, the Treasury Department has been using sort of accounting maneuvers referred to as extraordinary measures to continue paying all of the nation's bills in full and on time. And so what this would do, which is a little bit different than what Congress has done in recent years, is it would actually raise the debt limit by a certain dollar amount. And so exactly how long that would last is a little less certain than when they have suspended the debt limit to a certain date.
And both Democrats and Republicans have acknowledged the U.S. going into default would be catastrophic. So what's ultimately holding up the two sides in terms of coming to a long-term agreement? Why the temporary measure?
Republicans, predominantly Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell, have been saying for months that if Democrats are going to advance this multi-trillion-dollar budget reconciliation package for climate change initiatives and education programs and paid family leave without any Republican input or Republican backing, that Republicans say should also address the debt limit on their own through that budget reconciliation process. Democrats have been adamant that raising the debt limit to account for all of the federal spending is a bipartisan process, traditionally has been a bipartisan process, and should be something that the parties continue to negotiate. And so what this short-term patch would do is give them a little bit longer to try to come to agreement on a longer-term funding bill. But right now, both sides are firmly remaining in their camps, with Republicans saying the only avenue forward for a long-term debt limit suspension is for Democrats to do it on their own through the reconciliation process, and Democrats saying they absolutely will not address the debt limit through the reconciliation process.
So, Jennifer, let me ask you one more question about the timing. The short-term deal will raise the debt ceiling until December 3rd, the same day that the short-term government funding bill will run out. Could Congress address these two issues together, or do you expect that we're going to end up seeing another stalemate?
They could address these two issues together, but that is going to take a lot of compromise by both Democrats and Republicans, and that has not been something we've seen a willingness on either party to do, really. And especially on this temporary debt limit bill, McConnell offered this to Democrats yesterday rather publicly, and all day today, Republicans have been in and out of private meetings with several of their members frustrated by this deal and publicly criticizing McConnell for making it. And so moving forward in some type of bipartisan way could be really complicated, especially when debt limit is added to all of these government funding measures, which Congress usually has a bit of a challenge working out as well.
All right, Jennifer Shutt, thank you.
Thanks for having me.